In 2026, while the world seems to be rediscovering analog, some of us never really left it. There's just something special about putting pen to paper and capturing life in a journal. Lately, there's been a growing trend in the journaling world, DIY traveler's notebook inspired by brands like Paper Republic and Louise Carmen. And of course, I had to try making one myself. So, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you two versions. One is super budget friendly, which I made with just simple, minimal, and functional things that I got from the dollar store, and the budget came to around $10. And there's another one which is more elevated that costed me around $40. It requires a little bit of detailing and craftsmanship, but I'll be walking you through both processes step by step so you can decide what works best for you, whether you want to keep it affordable or you want to go in and create something a little more luxe. So let's get started. So here are all the materials you'll need to create the $10 journal. First, you'll need a simple pair of scissors. You don't need anything fancy like a blade or a rotary cutter. If you have one, great, but I made mine using just a basic scissor, assuming that's something you already have at home. Next, you will need some clip of some sort. This is something I already own, so I didn't include it in the cost. You'll also need a coin like a loonie, a few cents, or really any small coin. If you don't have cash on hand, you can use anything round like a glue stick. This is just to help round the corners on your journal. Now, for the inserts, I used simple dollar store notebooks, not from Dollarama, just a regular dollar store notebook. Each of this costed me $1.75, and I used two of them. That's honestly all you need. Now, if you want to add a little bit bulk to your journal, I included this sketchbook, which was around $3, again from Dollarama. Now, that's completely optional, but if you want your journal to look fuller, you can include one, but two journals are absolutely fine, and that's all that you need. Next up, you will require a ruler of some sort and a pencil or pen for making measurements. And then comes some elastic, which are really important. For elastics, you have a few options. If you're making the $40 version, then you will need to buy elastic from Michaels. Uh, but for the $10 journal, I found this gold elastic at the thrift store for $1. If thrifting isn't an option for you, don't worry, you can easily find alternatives. At the dollar store, I found this thick hair scrunchy elastic for $1.75. The key is to choose something that stretches well because you'll need to cut it and tie knots. So, flexibility really matters here. Now, if you want to add some extra details like charms, like I did mine for my $10 journal, you can use a bracelet or charms that you have on hand. I found this Dollarama bracelet for $3. It's super easy to work with. You don't need any tools. You can simply open it with your hands, remove the charms, and attach them to your journal. These charms are not needed, but if you have them, then it's great. This is included in the $10 budget. So this bracelet costed me $3, and I've used this on my journal. Now, you also need some cutting mat because when you make holes, you need like a cutting board, a chopping board, or this mat of some sort to protect your table. Now, finally, let's talk about the cover material, which is the most expensive part. I used leather scraps that I found at the thrift store, but you can check places like Fabricland where they often have leftover pieces like fur leather or suede. The larger piece I used costed me $4, and then there was a smaller one for around $3. Now, if you don't have that route to go and you don't have the option of going to a thrift store, then you can go to Dollarama. It is a Canadian dollar store, and I found this placemat which was for $2.75, and honestly it is amazing. It is thick, durable, and once you cut it to size, it does make a sturdy journal cover. In fact, I was more impressed with this one than the leather. As you can see, I have used everything basic from Dollarama and the dollar store, and that's what helped me to stay within the budget of $10 and make my journal. Now that you know everything you need, let's make the journal. Your placemat or the material is going to be quite large to begin with. I've already made mine, so I've pre-cut the pieces, but let me walk you through exactly how to measure it. First, you take whatever notebooks you plan to use. They don't have to be from the dollar store or Dollarama. You can use anything you already have at home. Stack them together and measure the height. That's the first step. Once you have the height, go ahead and cut your material accordingly. Next, we are going to be creating a trifold cover. So place your notebooks inside and fold the material around them to figure out how wide it is, that you'll be needing the material. Now, this will help you determine how much extra material you need for the flaps on both sides. Once you're happy with the size and flap, that's when you'll go ahead and cut it. Now, that's your cover. Now, the next step is to make holes. For the elastic, you need something sharp. For my $10 journal, I used a hole poking tool that I already have, but you absolutely don't need anything fancy. A thick needle, a push pin, or any sharp pointy object you have at home will work fine. Make sure that you're working on a safe surface like a cutting mat or a board you don't so that you don't damage your table. Then carefully use your tools to poke holes when needed. Now, just to give you a comparison for this video, I'm also using a traveler's notebook that I ordered from Amazon. This is what brought my total for my second journal to around $40. The notebook itself was 16, and I used some proper tools to get a more polished finish. For the more expensive suede leather version, I did use a eyelet and a gourmet toolkit to create a clean reinforced hole. Now, this is completely optional, but if you want that professional finished look, you're okay. And if you're okay to spend that more money, then go ahead and order things from Amazon. Like I said, you don't need anything fancy. You can absolutely stick to the $10 version by using the materials and the tools you have at home. I just wanted to show you both the options, the budget friendly version and the more premium one, so you can decide what works best for you. Now I'm going to be using this sweet leather that I found at the thrift store just to show you exactly how to measure and cut your journal cover. You can use any material and any notebooks that you already have on hand, or you can buy new ones. It's totally up to you. Now, once you have your leather and your notebooks ready, start by placing your notebooks on top of the material. Decide first, do you want a bifold journal or do you want a trifold journal? Here, I have stacked three, traveler size notebooks together. And the first thing I did was measure the height. I actually had to switch to a pen because pencil marks weren't visible on this material. Using a ruler, I marked a straight line and then used my scissor to cut the leather to the correct height. At this point, you have an option to keep a simple bifold journal. You could just add holes, thread your elastic, and your journal would be ready. But if you want a little more elevated, like a trifold journal, you'll need some extra material for the flap. So, what I did was I took another piece of leather that I had left over and placed my notebooks right in the center. At the bottom, I marked where the journal sits, and there I'm just like basically taking my measurements and trying to cut them. You can measure as many times as you want, but make sure you're cutting it only once. For a trifold journal, don't place your notebooks too tightly together. Leave a little space between them, about an inch. Now this gap helps your journal to close properly and also gives it that nice slightly bulky look. Once you space them out, you can go ahead and cut your material accordingly. Now, after cutting, always double check your measurements. Honestly, measure as many times as you need. Place your notebooks side by side again, check the spacing, wrap the cover around, and make sure everything fits the way you want. If you would like, you can round the corners for a softer look. With this suede though, I kept it simple and cut straight edges because the material is quite thin, but for my Dollarama version, I did round the corners using a coin. And just like that, your basic trifold cover is ready. Now we're going to be moving on to marking the holes. Next, I left about an inch of space from the top and marked two holes. Then I did the same at the bottom, now leaving about an inch and marking two more holes. So in total, I had four holes on top of the section and four holes on the bottom, making eight holes overall since I'll be using eight eyelets. Now comes the most important part of poking holes. Now, for my Dollarama journal, honestly, I went ahead and used the Cricut tool that I had, the sharper edges to mark holes. But for this journal, I'll be using the Amazon kit that I ordered. But if you don't have that, please, you can use anything sharp. Okay, now let's talk about the toolkit. Your toolkit will usually have a sharp punching tool with a base with a small curve and a setting tool with a rounded end. Now you will also have two parts for the eyelet. One is the main piece, slightly sharper, and the other is a flat cap. Now, if you don't have a hammer, that's completely fine. I'm using a mortar pestle. Basically, anything heavy will work. Now, start by placing your leather on a sturdy surface like a cutting board. Then use the sharp tool and gently hammer it to create your holes. Now, it doesn't take much, just a few taps, and if your tool is sharp, it will go through easily. Next, take the main eyelet piece. Now, this will be the slightly sharper one and push it through the hole from one side of the leather. Now, place this onto the base of your toolkit. The base will have a small curved indentation where the eyelets sit. Now, this helps to keep everything aligned. Position your eyelet properly into that curve, okay? So it doesn't move around. Now, take that flat cap and place it on the other side on the top of the eyelid. Now, using the rounded setting tool, gently tap it with your hammer. Don't hit too hard, just a light, controlled tap until the eyelid closes and flattens securely. Now, make sure you check both sides. You don't want anything sharp or sharp edges sticking out. If it feels too pointy, give it a few more taps gently until you basically have a completely smooth and secure eyelet. That's what I'm exactly doing here. Now, if you don't want to order all of these fancy tools from Amazon and you need something simple, then take your sharp needle, sharp tool, or anything sharp that you have on hand and just poke the holes right through, like I did in this Dollarama journal. Then I put my elastic, put my charms, and there it was. My $10 journal was ready. But here I'm showing you an option of how you can make an elevated journal if you want, and make it a little bit fancy. So I am still going ahead and making my suede journal because I want to show you the process. But for my dollar store journal, I haven't used any of these tools yet, but I will be using them now and just showing you the process of how to put your elastic through these holes. Okay, journal number one, which I have gone ahead and used my tools, and I have gone ahead and used these tools on my placemat also. And I just want to show you how you can, put the elastic through. So you can take any elastic that you want. This elastic, the colorful bands, it costed me around $6 Canadian. I got it from Michaels. And if you don't want to use those elastics, then go ahead and you can thrift or use simple hair tie elastics and use a thread to thread your journal. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the elastic through the first hole. Okay, that's the first hole. You're going to remove it from the top left hand side hole. You're going to pull it down. Now, at this point, you can add charms if you want, but this journal cover, I'm making it as a gift, and my partner does not want, like, he doesn't want any charms on his journal cover, so I'm not adding any charms on his cover. So, this is my first elastic, and whatever journal that you decide to have, right? How do you measure it? How do you cut your elastic? So you basically open your journal and you tie your elastic on top of it. Now look at, how sturdy do you want your journal to be? That's exactly how you measure. Trust, think of how much you're going to write. Are you going to add any stickers? Are you going to bulk it up? Based on that, you're going to cut your elastic. So you're I've decided I don't want to bulk it up, and I'm just tying a knot and cutting my elastic right then and there. And I have put all of these three covers and made my first journal cover with a simple trifold cover with three Amazon journals that I ordered, traveler size notebooks, and there you go. It's a simple journal cover. This costed me around $36, and I have my journal cover ready. Now, something that's missing is the back hole. How do you know, put through a thread here or elastic here? I want to show you that process. Now you can poke a hole in the center at the very back of your journal leather cover or your cover, and you can put an eyelet. If you don't want to put an eyelet, don't put an eyelet. But basically, you're going to put through the elastic from the outside, and you're going to, pull the elastic. You're going to close the cover, and basically try to understand how bulky is your journal, how bulky are going to be your journals that you're going to be using. And once you have an idea, can the elastic stretch enough and wrap around your journal or wrap around your notebooks? That's how much you're going to be using that elastic. And once you decide how much you need that stretch to be, you're going to tie that elastic really tight from the inside, and there you go. You've made yourself a complete, basic leather journal, a trifold leather journal, which kind of looks really good. This is a simple journal without any charms. But now let's jump on to this Dollarama journal, which I'm super excited about. Now, for my dollar store journal, I have gone ahead and poked two holes, and I did put eyelets, but until now I had not used the eyelets. So, without the eyelet, I made the journal for $10 and I was kind of happy. And I'm using the same thrifted elastic, but I am putting in charms. So, once I put my elastic through the first hole is when I'm going to be using the charm, and then I'm going to be putting the elastic through the top first hole onto your left. Now I also want charms to be at the very bottom, so I'm going ahead and selecting the charms that I want at the bottom of my journal and just looping them through the elastic and going through at the very last hole in this journal and bringing it on the top. And similarly, I'm going to go ahead and complete putting in the elastic for the second side of my journal also. And I'm also using lots of charms on this journal. I want two holes. I am putting in from the inside. I'm taking my elastic in the first hole. I'm flipping it through. Okay. I want to add lots of charms on my journal. So I'm pulling in all the charms. I'm using three charms here. So the charms will be in the front. Okay. So I'm putting in all my charms, then pulling in the elastic through the top of the journal cover, back in the inside part of the journal, and then I'm going to tie it. Once again, I've decided what's going to be the bulk of my journal, how many journals I'm going to use, and there you go. I have just tied a knot really tight and made my journal complete. And before we wrap up, I just want to say there's a reason I didn't give you exact measurements. I really want you to use whatever journals or materials you already have and make this your own. I have shared the basic process so you can customize it in a way that works for you. I hope this didn't feel confusing. I tried to keep it as simple and flexible as possible with options for every budget, whether you're thrifting, using dollar store supplies, or just using what you have at home. And remember, a journal isn't about how it looks, it's about what you put inside. Your thoughts, your memories, your creativity. That's what truly matters. I hope this video inspired you to create something of your own and maybe even save some money along the way. There's something really special about making your own journal. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you in the next video very soon. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below.